Hi guys, today we have with us Waseem, designer, final year CSE undergraduate from SRM KTR, former UI designer at Wipro, creatives lead at E-cell SRMIST, ex-creatives head at Coding Ninjas Club SRM KTR, ex-graphic design head at Diva, and prominently known as Design God. Over to you, Waseem.
Hi Sarthak, hi Ramsit. Yeah, hi everyone. Yeah.
Start with the basic question. How do you feel coming to Vartalaap?
Well, I feel honored because I think I'm one of your first guests after Prayasu, I guess. So yeah, it's an honor. I feel good to be a part of Vartala.
Is this your first podcast? I think it's your first podcast.
Definitely it is. Yeah.
If not the first guest, but yeah, someone from the field of design, definitely the first. So, Waseem, building onto this, how this design journey started, and when did you figure it out? Like, okay, now design is my thing.
Well, it took me a lot of time to realize that uh, I liked designing when compared to development or any other field per se. So, if I should talk about how I started this, it's about in my first year. In my first semester, we all had online classes and all. We all were at a time where we were simply mindlessly scrolling reels and all. So, while that time, I found a few pages over there where I even saw some things for the first time. I didn't even know that digital art was this much famous after the COVID era. So that kind of struck lightning in me that I should definitely give this some try. I was inspired by an IIT graduate. His name is Kirti Vardhan. He's an IIT Jodhpur graduate. So I saw a page of his which had awesome designs. Very creative. And I think it also included some tracks of data visualization. So when I saw that, I thought, okay, maybe we should give this a try. While I was just starting, I was just simply starting a page before, which is called Lazy Ask, which is now no more. But so while I started that, I got a lot of support from my college mates, especially. First of all, I thank them for the full support. So they were almost letting me know that, okay, bro, you should give this a try because I think this is your strong suit. I think you should start exploring this field. So that's when I started graphic design, to be fair. So after that, I slowly came to know about UI UX designing, which is web design. So I involved myself in a few projects, including hackathons, where I was mostly a designer, a participant, and a mentor sometimes. Yeah, I think I was a mentor in your hackathon as well, Hackverse.
Yeah. In Aquas as well.
Yeah, yeah. Still feels good to be a part of that. That's how my journey started overall. And I think that's all about it.
I have a really interesting question with me that many people join BTech or do engineering and they have mainly most of them have a simple goal. Okay, I'll do coding or I'll go in a technical field and I'll go for my placements or I'll choose that as my career path. But you took design as a career path, which is not that common around all. So did you have that confusion like I'm doing right or not, or else can I do good in this or not? Do you have that confusion ever?
I'm glad to say that I wasn't confused at all because, see, if I chose BTech, then I'm giving myself an opportunity to explore things, taking BTech as a weapon to use it. So, see, there are a lot of things you can explore in a gap of 4 years. You can ponder here and there. You have plenty of time to do that. But it definitely takes time to choose which field you want to get in. You know what they say, सब इस्तेमाल करो फिर सही चुनो. Same logic here. Once you get to know what you want to do, then I think you're kind of sorted over there. But the biggest catch in this is that you should never stop because while you're stopping, then you'll lose the flow, regardless of any field. So if you have an option to, like I like this field, I think I should give more into this. Then I don't think you should ever stop.
Okay, you said one point that everyone knows when to choose. What was your point? Like, okay, I'll do design from now. I'll choose this as my career. What was that point?
To be honest, I didn't even know there was a point. I did it. I knew it. That's it. I know it sounds
That
stupid,
did,
but
Yeah,
I think everyone has to just explore
yeah.
their fields so that they can know what they want.
the flow. Like, okay, you choose. Okay, chalte, we can do this in this
Yeah.
field itself.
Yeah. So a major part in this would be the college clubs I took part in. Throughout my
Hmm.
college life, I took part in I think 11 college clubs
Oh
in
my God.
SRM Katangatu. Yeah. I know it's crazy.
It's
Uh,
crazy. It's
yeah.
freaking crazy.
So
So, Wasim, building onto this thing is my personal observation as well as I've also come across this. Like, design is not something which everyone can do. Like, you need to have a creative mind for that. It's not something which you can learn and be a better at it. Ha, okay, you can grasp the things, but you have to be some sort of creative. That creativeness should be there within you, and then it's that thing which makes you a good designer. So, is it the true or not? Like, it's not something which everyone can take up. Is it?
see, I think it the other way because see, everyone is capable to have a creative mind. No one is, you know,
Point.
they're not suppressing their thoughts.
Yeah,
Like you should bring it out. Wh-
yeah,
Having a good design sense is not enough. Like you need to also know where to use a design sense. I think that's what matters. I think not everyone gets that, but I mean, as I told earlier, everyone is capable of having a creative mind, and if they work on it, I'm definitely sure they'll come somewhere. Because what I personally believe is that design can never go wrong, because
yeah.
at the end you're just trying,
uh,
regardless of any
Exactly.
field. Forget design. I'm talking generally. While you're working, I think that's more than enough.
They said that most of the designers has a creative mind. For example, someone who doesn't have that creative mind, how can he come up well in the design field? Like who is creative, he can design many things, or he has different perspective of everything what he sees. Who doesn't have a creative mind, for example? So then what he does, like how can he improve his thing in the designing graph?
See, I'm pretty sure that a person who feels that way should given a lot of time to, get something. Because, like, see, if I'm watching a tutorial of 2 hours, like how to create this design, I'll work on it. But that's not my creativity. I'm just replicating the another person's creativity. But while you're doing it on your own, you'll definitely take 6 hours to do that. I mean, I'm just roughly saying, I'm not saying approximately, just giving an example. But in the end, both reach the same optimum, which really matters. I mean, not everyone has the same speed, but definitely anyone can become a designer.
So, continuing to the next question, there's a myth or fact that you have to tell us. Like it's a myth or fact that if you learn design, there's an easy opportunity of getting internship, or like getting roles easily. Like earning
Yeah,
money
this
easily or
thing,
getting internship easily.
this is the most common myth
See,
I've ever came across.
well, to be honest, it really depends on how much uh, experience you have. See, you can't just directly get into a big tech firm and become a designer over there. You'll have to start somewhere, even
Yeah,
if it's a small startup or else as a founding member of a startup. If you give enough amount of time, then you'll have some experience. And as experience adds on, you can get into a good firm.
I would like to dig deep into it. My point is like what people think is leave technicals, let's just do designing and let's grab one internship. They believe that it's the quickest way to earn money. So is it or is it not? I don't feel is it because it requires time. The perfection which comes over the time only. So it's not something which can be done overnight.
See, if you're choosing a BTech degree,
Yeah,
then what people tend to do is that they take, in the initial stage, which I also did, I'm not going to disagree that I didn't. I took design as my profession and not my passion at all.
yeah,
But turns out it was my passion. I'm just working on
yeah.
it. But it doesn't really mean that it cannot become your profession. It just doesn't become your profession at the very beginning. It takes time to build. And yeah, I'll agree with this myth that people think it is a quickest thing to do. But answering your question is there are a lot of things, lot of roles. Like if I'm working on a website, so there is a developer, but
Yeah,
he's stuck somewhere. He's having a creative block. Okay, how can I make this better? So
yeah.
making the website better is the responsibility of the designer. I don't know about getting into a job, but maintaining the relationship between a developer and a designer is very, very essential.
I
Yeah,
get you.
because teamwork really matters and it definitely matters there.
I'll come back to this part which you said later and we'll dig deep into it later as well. But before that, I would like to ask what it takes to be a good, not good, but a great designer. Like the the level at which you are. What does it takes to be there? And what was your roadmap for it?
My roadmap would be starting with softwares like Photoshop or Illustrator because you need to know the basics of editing or maybe designing something. It may be a logo or a poster or anything. It just see anything that involves your creativity is really mandatory over. And then I chose web design because web design also consists of graphic design also. But like if I'm adding very good elements, then it contributes to a good website. I don't really have a proper roadmap, but yeah, everyone can get somewhere if they really try hard. This is what I feel.
I agree to you as well when you say this.
I have a doubt that everyone said you need to be creative. Like if you have that imagination power, every designer or every creative person has that imagination power. And how much does the role play in that like if you're doing a thing, how much that imagination roles play a role in that thing? Like okay, I have good imagination skills or I have good creative skills, then I can design this much better than that other fellow or other mate.
See, bringing your imaginations into reality is what a creator does, digital creator does. If I am thinking of a very dynamic website, then I have to create it. That's only when I'll be able to showcase what I have in mind. But again, not everyone likes the same design. Because, see, if I have a client and I have to approach him with my design, it should be, I mean, I should be sure that he would be liking it. Because not everyone likes the same design. If
Yeah,
I show Rachita a design, then he might like it. If I show
yeah.
to Sarthak, then he might be like, okay, I don't want this, I want another one. So I
Like,
think it also
yeah.
depends on the client's interests.
So this is
Yeah,
something which I want to ask you later, but I'd like to ask this now itself. How does a
yeah,
designer
sure.
understands how does a designer understands demand of people from him? Since everyone has a different perspective, at
Yeah.
times doesn't it becomes difficult for a designer to understand okay what he wants and what I want and what I am capable of and like what should be the perfect thing. So how does designer understands that like what that particular guy wants?
The easiest way to do this is to have a good communication with the client because before creating something, it's really necessary
Yeah,
that you have a conversation with the client so that you can get to know his needs. And if the client is really uh, in need of this design, then he should sit with you and you both should work it. That's the easiest thing to do. But not everyone has the an instinct to, just understand what this guy wants. I mean, you should just keep sending drafts of your design, and he might like something. He can choose
yeah.
that. It usually works that way. Not every like they can't just immediately, get into their mind that okay, if I make this here like that, it's really not necessary.
Okay, so and isn't it frustrating at times when you create designs and
Hmm.
then the other person points things out? Okay, this Wasim, this needs to be corrected. Then again they say no, no, Wasim, this is not right. Like bring it, they take it that over there. So doesn't it becomes frustrating at times? Okay, like every time you're putting in 100% and then again due to a small change, you personally feel that okay, it's not looking good, but he wants it that way. Is the designer able to keep his point of view over there? Like, okay, sir, I feel this is not the right thing and this should be done instead of this.
It depends on the tone you're maintaining with your client
Yeah,
and vice versa. Because if if he's making changes with my design in the end, he says that I don't want this and I want another one. So that's the point where any designer will get frustrated because you've
yeah.
put so much work on this and in the end it's like scrap this or I don't want this. It doesn't work that. I mean, see, a design is never wasted. If it's not being in use, it can be in use somewhere else. As I mentioned earlier, it is really important to understand where to use the particular design. And that definitely takes
Mhm.
a lot of time and patience. This is what
Yeah,
I.
me and Saturday also when we started this podcast and then when we are designing the logo and the starting part and all.
Exactly.
So that time even we had the conflicts like I didn't like that design idea that he had. He didn't like my design idea sometimes. So like we have to like okay we have to come at a similar point like okay this is okay we can go on this we can go on this that was an issue. So okay
Hmm.
continuing to the next thing, how much design plays a major role in the software technology field, like in this engineering field, in this CS field.
Mm.
Like everyone wants a designer, but everyone is like, okay, many people say they are overrated. Designers are overrated. Even I can create a simple design, what it is, what that. So how
Exactly.
much important does this role plays?
See, what I really feel is that you cannot overrate a design
Mm.
because
Hmm.
he is working what he has. He's not going beyond that or maybe not even underestimating himself. Plays a role in software development because, see, if nowadays, even in Web3 also you can say, if they build awesome tools over there, you can notice that they're having a very good design sense over there. Like, be it the color palette or the font itself. So I think that is what really matters over there. So in that sense, I'll say that it can be a big part in web development. But in other aspects, if I'm see every part needs a designer. It's pretty obvious. Pretty obvious is that there should be a designer in the field so that they can work on it together and come up with something. Because brainstorming is what matters in the end.
Because even I believe, when product ideation part takes place, the next step after it is the design only. Okay, how it has to be designed.
Yeah.
And without it, you cannot proceed with anything, neither the development nor,
Yes.
anything with it. So I believe it's a crucial part and an important part. And what people do is, again, what Rachit told. they tell that okay, instead of getting in an Excel designer, we will manage on our own. So I don't feel it's a right approach. I would like to take your thoughts on it, not from the core designer point of view, but from the general point of view. Like, how do you feel, is this approach a right or not?
Well, it has two cases. The first
Yeah,
case would be that the person who thinks this way is a good designer himself. When
yeah,
I say good designer, I mean that he has he pretty much of experience and he can work on it. And maybe the people can also brainstorm ideas. I mean, proper teamwork can lead to a good design, which is pretty obvious. But the second case would be that if you're not sure that, okay, my design might not turn out good, then a designer can definitely help you. There are tons of designers out there, I'm telling you.
yeah.
So they're always ready to help you. You can find them in freelancing websites usually.
Okay,
Yeah.
before I hand over it to Rachit, I would like to ask one more thing. Like Rachit talked about imagination power, and you also, the inner creativity. You talked about it.
Hmm.
Other thing which I want to ask is, can this inner creativity be enhanced from time to time? And like, how does this process take place? Like, how an individual thinks? Because a designer is never satisfied. How does that thing comes into the mind? Like, okay, now this needs to be done. Now it's better needs to be done. So how that inner creativity has to be enhanced from time to time?
The best approach to do that would be taking inspiration from different designers. Maybe less experience or more experience, it doesn't matter. When you look at another person's design, you'll start to think that, okay, he might make this design better by doing this and that, and you can still work it out. It might turn better, it might turn, worse. It really depends on how you're designing it. But in the end, you're still working on it. You know what not to do and you know what to do. In the
Yeah.
end, experience is the factor that plays here.
When I was in 11th and 12th, that time the internet boomed. Everyone were on YouTube and everything. Like everyone wanted to create a YouTube channel and everything. So everyone were learning some software. So that time Adobe Illustrator or Adobe Lightroom, these were the apps like they used to create designs and everything. But now it's like there's a Figma and Canva. So what do you think? Like Figma, what's the difference between a Figma and a proper designer who uses Adobe Illustrator from blank sketch, blank canvas? He creates everything, but in Figma you can get everything. Like everything is already given. You can just take and upload and think.
See, what people really misunderstand is that Figma is a graphic design tool. It's a
Hmm.
See, it's actually a prototyping tool. If you're trying to build a website, if you want to know the working of your design, then Figma is the best tool. Figma and Adobe XD. These are the biggest tools which they use for UI UX design. I think they're kind of underestimating Figma by saying that it's a graphic design software. No, it's not. And about Canva, generally graphic designers hate Canva. Like hate Canva to the core. The reason behind is that, like they put on so much work, but elements are already preloaded here. They can use if they want, which kind of undermines the creativity of a designer who is well deserving when compared to the software Canva. And Canva, I feel like it restricts a person's creativity again because
Hmm.
elements are already pre-rolled. You don't really have much work to do. You just add it and you just put it there, and they'll be like, okay, design is done. My work is done. I don't have to pay anything anyone. It doesn't work that way. If you want a good product, be ready to pay some money. Be it buying
Okay,
a
then.
software or giving it to a designer. This is what I think.
So do you think the person who uses Canva, they are not the OG designer or the real designer thing?
Yeah, that should be the conclusion of my statement.
Then I think I should not consider myself as a designer. Leave
No,
it.
Yeah, bro,
me,
definitely.
me neither, me neither, me neither. Okay, me neither. Wasim, I would like to ask you, and I would like to elaborate this. Like, I want you to elaborate over this. Take your time. How was your experience at Wipro as a designer? And just tell people how designer works in industry. Because till now people know about designing into clubs, designing for this, designing for that, designing for event. But how does designing works at industrial level? For example, what was your experience at Wipro? How it happened? What
See,
was the
I
work?
couldn't tell much about my experience at Wipro because I had to work along with my college timings. If I have college from 9 to 5, then I have to work from 6 to 9. So this is what my schedule used to be. So while you're at a very hectic place, it's pretty very much prone to not having a very good mindset and like working on the
Yeah,
design. Your mind is pretty cluttered that time.
yeah,
So that is the biggest drawback I had over there because obviously if you're working on internship, you should be sure that you'll be giving your full time over there. But
yeah.
I had to work both sides, which was kind of difficult for me, obviously because it was my first time. So, but talking about the importance of design in an industrial field, yeah, it's pretty like as I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of clients over there who want to look at a design and they'll correct it to the max level they could because they want it their way. They never want it our way. Like if you can suggest a design. I mean, their thoughts are open and your thoughts are open. If you're showing them a design and they don't like it, they tell you some suggestion. You can work on it, but please don't tarnish your design in the name of pleasing your client. This is the biggest mistake which everyone do because again you're undermining your creativity, which is not a very good thing for a designer to do.
Continuing to this question, then can we say that if you work at a reputed company, so you cannot be creative if you are going into reputed companies than startup. If you go to a new startup, a person who's starting a new startup, then you can show your creativity because they're like it's a new company. You can give your thoughts, and it may be recognized more than in a big reputed company.
See, I'll tell you the difference between getting into a startup and getting into an industry like big tech field like Wipro. Both have interviews. In an interview for a startup, the founder is usually there, and he's kind of aware with about your design sense by a mutual person who already knows what you're doing. So that is what usually happens in a startup. While people are getting into a new startup, this is what usually happens. So if the founder himself is happy with your design sense, then he'll let you to be creative. But that doesn't work this way in the corporate field. If I'm getting interviewed by a from a design team in a company, then he'll want me to show his designs. But they kind of want it to be basic and like something that fits corporate company. Like if they have their own website, they want it to be very simple because people who belong to all age groups would be using that. Yeah, this is what the difference which I could tell.
Since you talk about interviews, one more thing I want to ask: how these design interviews take place? Like what they ask, what all they ask in specific? Did they or did they just ask you to show your designs and then they based on that they judge you? What else they ask in all this?
Yeah, they ask questions like how you got into this field and what you really like about this. What are the drawbacks in this field which you faced all along? And definitely showcasing your work is one of the biggest part in the interview because they need to know what you do, right? So if you have to showcase it, see, people don't really matter nowadays about what you're showcasing. They're thinking about how you're showcasing it.
Yeah,
Like if I'm sending it in a Google Drive, then no, like they'll be like, okay, because they don't really have a very good resolution while you're uploading it and presenting over a Google Meet or something. You can just show them a website or a portfolio which you have made earlier, and you can
yeah.
show, okay, these are my designs and this is my design sense. This is what I usually work on, and that pretty much helps.
Okay, one more thing before Rachit goes on. I would like you to dive deep into Figma for the for our
Okay,
audience,
yeah,
like for the budding,
yeah.
for the budding designers as well. Why Figma? What is Figma? And how to use it, when to use it, and what for. It's not like creating a simple logo you're using Figma or something like that. But yeah, so I just want you to elaborate a bit over Figma.
So if you're a beginner and you want to know what Figma is, so Figma is a web design tool where you can create user interfaces and even also add a few transitions to your website. And you nowadays have the ability to convert your design into code using Figma plugins. So Figma is a very handy tool and it also has a very simple user interface which will allow designers to keep doing stuff because when you're having a bad interface you don't feel like using it anymore.
Exactly.
But apparently Figma doesn't make you feel that way. I mean, personally I feel that way.
When I used to see the Adobe thing, we have a very work panel and all small icons,
Hmm.
and I couldn't identify like which icon used to do which thing. So I just left it off on Adobe. Like okay, it's really tough. So what? Okay, continuing this question, if we give you a choice, Adobe or Figma, what do you choose?
See, it's really tough to like compare between these two because
Uh,
you're obviously using both for different purposes. So you can't
hmm.
really land to a particular answer. But obviously, Adobe has a lot of choices like when compared to Figma because in Figma you're just designing and developing, and I mean it's mostly about development. But if you want to become a full-time designer, then Adobe is a very good choice.
We can recommend
Yeah.
to the juniors who are going just starting up in this field. We can recommend them Figma. Like okay, you can start with Figma. If you are very
Yeah.
comfortable in designing, then you can jump
Hmm.
into Adobe or more softwares which are like more creative thing.
Well, I did the other way, so I suggest that
Started from Adobe
Adobe.
and then
Yeah,
you jumped down
that's
to
how I
Figma.
started.
So, what was your experience over
Hmm.
Figma? Like, how did you now you must be Greek god in Figma, like it must be very easy for you now, Figma, the comfort level and all now with all the time with 100 plus 200 plus
Yeah, yeah.
designs. So for the beginners, like again you have told they should start, but some people what they do is they start from Canva and they
Hmm.
compare Canva and Figma, which we have already ran into discussion, like it's something very different. So how, like it is it important for designers to understand, the budding designers to understand that Figma is the thing if they want to see a future in designing and not the Canva, because Canva designs are something very low key or something like kept for like small purposes.
So answering your question, and I'll be honest here,
Yeah.
Canva is the first tool I ever used for designing.
Okay.
Because while I joined a new college club, then they asked me to work on Canva, and
Yeah.
I wasn't
No.
really aware of okay how to do this and that. So
Mm.
Canva was the way for me to explore. Then I knew that okay, bro, this is not going to work out for us. I think we should go for something better. So I think trying out Canva is not a mistake, but trying on Canva all the time will be a mistake. I mean, if you don't want to, turn into a designer or something, then maybe Canva is your right choice. But if you want to become a designer, you want to work completely on that,
Yeah.
then Canva is not your suit. That's what I say. People might disagree, but that's the truth.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone like has their own point. So, okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
according to your thing, what will be a perfect ideal roadmap for a budding designer? The posts are like he's not into any tech thing. Purely
Yeah.
wants to become a designer thing. So, like, what will be his ideal roadmap? Okay, do these things, you can become a good designer here in this.
Just take your time and elaborate,
Before,
Wasim.
yeah. No,
Hmm.
what I'm thinking is that before jumping into the roadmap, I think it's really important that a person feels how to, communicate in a better sense. You should have good communication skills. And
Hmm.
design skills is not the only thing that matters. You should also know how to
Hmm.
communicate with the client or even a leader of your own team. Right? You're getting my point, right? Because
Got you.
both,
Got
only
you.
both can make you a better designer.
Like, is it good to start from all these small things like you did from Canva? Is it good for a designer who is thinking to, establish his foot
See,
into this field?
definitely a designer should explore as
Hmm.
much as he could. Like,
Yeah.
if I'm getting into a new city, I want to look
Hmm.
at all the famous places, right? Anyone
Great.
wants to do that. I'd
Hmm.
compare the same to any field. You'll have to explore what's there and what we should be working on or we should not be working on. So I think that is the thing that plays a big role. But coming back to the roadmap, yeah, you can start with the basic software. You can, do some courses, online courses on designing
Hmm.
and maybe learn about them because you should get to know what you're doing, right? So
Yeah.
a course can always help you in doing that. You're also getting a
Yeah.
certificate, so that's what
Yeah.
matters nowadays, right? Yeah. So you can, so you can also do that, and you can work on basic tools, basic designs.
Hmm.
Okay, like just don't think that okay, my design is bad. You should keep working only. You can make a very good design because also depends on what you're adding to the design, right? What you're adding to the design, what you're taking from the design, that is what
Huh.
matters in the end. The ideal roadmap, which I would suggest, is that Canva, Adobe Tools, then Figma, and
Yeah.
maybe if you're interested in augmented reality or virtual reality, then Blender can also help you.
One more thing. Yeah. Okay. Hmm.
Continuing with you said the point Blender. I just learned about Blender in a blog. It's like 3D rendering and everything. So does it come
Hmm.
under designing thing and how like what does it really helps in the design field?
See, if you want to, showcase your design in a three-dimensional sense, then Blender and AutoCAD can also help you. Like you could have learned AutoCAD in your first or second semester. So if
Yeah.
you want to make your design much more realistic, then Blender can help you in so many ways because you can also create animations with that. And
Yeah.
even if you're adding a graphic to that, then you can create it through Blender.
One more thing, Wasim, which was skipping from my mind was, how many designs have you have worked on? Like, I know that you might not be remembering the numbers since it's gonna be huge. So, roughly, how many designs over past 4 years, from 2020 to 2024, you have been around and you have created?
If I should give a rough number, I'll say 400 to 500. And
My
from
God.
that 400 to 500, above 300 are the ones which I have unreleased to the
Oh.
public. So yeah,
And one more thing which was on my mind is uh, design as a full-time profession and scope of it in future. How do you take this?
so well, if you want to work as a designer for full time, then the biggest catch is that you should never stop again, because if you're
Yeah.
stopping, then you lose your sense. Then you won't have a job with you. So I think being consistent is the biggest thing which you need to follow when you're working on full time, because the design just doesn't come on your mind and okay, sit on it. It doesn't work that way. You should do some research. You should work on it. You
Yeah.
should start designing. Then only you can contribute a better design. And a designer always needs a very cool mind. No
Hmm.
one can work in with a very troubled mind. Like if you're overthinking a few things already, it's pretty evident that you cannot come up with a good design. So you should always have a good, pleasant mind and a good atmosphere. So yeah,
I have seen every designer. At least they have a background of any other thing which they were good in art thing. For example, even if I
Yeah.
design something good, I have an art background of like I used to do photography, so I know like how
Yeah.
to frame a picture or how to like which colors will come pop good together and which theme I'm looking like a dark theme or a light theme. So that helps me in like designing things. Is I also ask someone asked me like, can you design me? So I can just give an idea. I need a wide angle scape of this thing with some this with that, and that helps me. So that basically think that photography helps me in my designing things. So do you also believe that okay, like any other art form can help in designing things, any other creative field?
yeah, definitely. Because see, if you want to make a good website which has very good photos, then obviously photography plays a good part over there, right? Actually, I'm building a portfolio myself for the past 2 months or something, and I'm not finishing it yet. So it has a few photos where I have edited and all. So it can always optimize design. So I don't think you can restrict creativity, because in the end, photography also plays a very huge part in graphic design, which is what I personally believe.
Okay, Wasim, like you have, we have talked a lot about, the good parts of the design and all the things. Now, I would like to ask you, what are the difficulties faced by a designer in budding stages as well as in the pro stage as well as like, in the all the stages he is going through.
See, the biggest drawback which I feel is that mm, you don't get validation as a designer. Like people always, okay, this guy's a designer. Design is a very easy field. Yeah, like
Yeah,
people
this
start thinking that way.
this is
So
wrong.
I think, yeah, I think being validated by a I mean, from general public
Yeah.
is a big stage for a designer. Also, it is really important that you have a good communication with the general public also, right? Like
Yeah.
because it also matters when you're becoming a good designer. And
One more thing.
another drawback would be
Yeah.
that people will not be paying you much, because they'll be like, okay, it is a small thing. What difficulty is there in it? They start comparing with development and design. Like development, you have to sit hours and hours for that. And for design, you can just do it in minutes. You can't
Uh,
just simply compare both, because only both can help in one product, one very good product. This is what many people don't get.
Great. Okay, one more thing before I hand over to Rachit is like Wasim, I have seen this a lot, and what happens is in hackathons, sometimes people get an edge because of the design itself. Nothing else is look. They are fascinated by the UI, and boom, things go crazy after that. So I want to put this question to you: how much role designer plays in a hackathon? Though he's not appreciated at that level, but how much importance a designer plays. From my point of view, designer is of huge importance when you go to the hackathons. Because if your design is crazy, your front end is gonna be ultimate, and it's definitely gonna give you an edge. Because what you see is something gets into your mind, and that's why good designs get good prizes. So what's your take on this?
Yeah, I think you already answered the question, Sarthak. Good designs get good prizes. How does a person win a hackathon? How does a team win a hackathon?
See, first the ideation, the product they take up, the idea, and after the idea, the next thing which comes is the design only. Because no one runs into your code generally. They ask you about your idea and a bit of the implementation, and that's what makes you a winner. So, from my point of view, ideation and design are the two pillars.
They definitely are because not along with your idea, even see the way how you're showcasing it is also very important. That's how they design a winner. If the idea
The
is good
presentation.
and the UI
Yeah,
is bad, then no, you're out. And vice versa.
exactly.
If the idea is very general and you just made a very good interface, it doesn't work that way.
That way.
So both have equal contribution in the winning of a hackathon, which is what I think. And about underestimating, I don't think anyone would during a hackathon
Yeah.
because every team generally consists of a person
Hmm.
who has an idea, a developer, and a designer, and a person who
Exactly.
is working at the back end, right?
Yeah.
So this is what a team generally holds. So that's my answer for that.
Okay.
Our technical fields or engineering field, there's many
Yeah.
like interior designers or like they design their houses or studios. Does this also come into design field? Okay, obviously it comes, but like what is different between that designer and this designer which you are doing?
See,
Okay.
for everything you need a degree for that, right?
Yeah.
You need to hold a degree for like if you're working on that. Like see, both are different fields. Like if I'm working as an interior designer, then I should have a BArch degree with me, which showcases what I have designed throughout the years and how I have implemented it. So while the process is same, but the output is very different, right? I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? You're designing house and designing website. It doesn't, constitute the same thing.
Okay, Wasim, one more thing. Now I would like to ask you the cult question, which we ask almost everyone on this show. What is your advice for the freshies and for the designers out there in the college level? What's your one single piece of advice for all of?
See, my advice for the freshers would be that they should never undermine themselves, their design work, or themselves in general, because many people can put you down by saying that, okay, your design is not good, bro. I thought you were
Yeah,
awesome at this, but you really disappointed me. But you shouldn't listen to them and see if they don't like another person, right? So, what my advice would be that you should never let yourself down and keep working. And they should definitely understand is that design is not a good bad field, right? Because people think that okay, you're not going to make much as a designer. You can't really say
yeah,
that. It depends on how
yeah,
much work you're putting in. I know a designer who works
exactly.
at Google right now. I know a
I
designer
know
who
that.
works at Amazon, right?
Yeah.
That's
They're
great.
working in the fun companies, even the switch ones. It doesn't matter. In the end, you're working, you're getting something. That's it.
So I believe if someone is passionate in design, passionate about design, he can go very long because everything aligns for
Yeah,
that guy then.
yes. But as I said, communication skills is also equally important
Yeah,
because designing something doesn't really, it doesn't end
I
with
get
that.
it.
You should also showcase, you should also know how you're presenting it.
Exactly. And talking about, the design in general life, what people come across is, I know it's a very small question when I ask you because I feel like you must have worked upon it, but not that much. How was, generally what how design comes into our lives is create a PPT, create this stuff, create that kind of stuff. And so how a person can stand out with their PPT designs and all, because that also plays a huge part in, in general.
See, the best approach for this would be not going with a general template they use. Like you could have seen
Yeah,
a few presets in a PowerPoint presentation. They'll use this font called Calibra. It's pretty general over there. You just have to add a topic, then you should write a few words about it. But
yeah,
the you can make it better by adding some colors to that, experimenting with
got it.
colors, and then adding
Hmm.
a few good designs in the background. and maybe using a very good set of fonts. So
Yeah.
that's how you can optimize a PowerPoint presentation, which I usually do even in my mini projects.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So much good to be at
Thank you, Waseem.
Thank you
Thank
for
you so much,
giving
guys.
your precious time to the juniors who are coming into the designer field. May them get inspired from you and go well in the design fields. Really hope so.
I hope the
And thank
same.
you so
Yeah.
much to give your time.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Waseem. Thanks a
Thank you
lot,
so much,
Waseem.
guys.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.